concept is silly, it's ridiculous, it's a waste of time. They didn't want that's why they were so successful. That's why they got away.
I made a living in it very dangerous.
This is really an integrated blue together.
Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Welcome to Dianne Andrews in Black and White, and I'm your host, Dianne Andrews. Thank you for joining us, whether you're in our 3 million homes on television or whether you're watching us on YouTube. And you will see our handles up here on the stage that you can get us on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and all the other major social media outlets. Tonight, I'll be doing another show on vaping in our series on vaping. As you saw, we did tobacco-free living with Heather Hutton from Louisiana Vape Association, the president, back in October. And we talked about tobacco living and we talked about vaping. Since then, a lot of issues have come to light. The CDC has found out that vaping, the deaths were not just caused by regular vaping products, the e-juices as they're called. It was caused by vitamin E, which becomes toxic, mixed with THC, which is a marijuana e-juice that was found on the black market. I think there were over 2,000 people killed with that, and everyone was, let's get rid of vaping, let's get rid of vaping. Before I knew what I know today, which is still a minuscule amount compared to the people that will be here tonight talking on this show, we have Gregory Conley, an attorney who's the president of the American Vaping Association. We have Paul Blair, the director of strategic initiatives on American tax reform. We have an ex-vapor, and we have Heather Hutton back with us to talk about Louisiana vaping specifically. So come on back to Dianne Andrews, and we're also going to tell you how the 2020 election can be changed based on which candidate wants to ban vaping and who doesn't want to ban vaping. We're going to talk about Michigan, and Trump only won by 10,000 votes. So come on back to Dianne Andrews in black and white.
Hi, I'm Greg Williams. I smoked for nearly 30 years. Stopped smoking because of vaping technology. Grape drink on ice is my favorite one.
The Louisiana vaping industry employs nearly 2,500 Louisiana residents, generating nearly $500 million for the state economy. It's important that state lawmakers protect this industry that's helping countless adult smokers quit with less harmful alternatives.
Vapers, your ability to access flavors is under attack. Join CASA today and fight back.
March 9th begins Louisiana's legislative session. The Louisiana Vape Association is asking for your help. Please contact your representatives today.
Welcome back to Dianne Andrews in black and white, and I have my 4 guests sitting here with us. We have Paul Blair, who I mentioned. We have Greg Conley, attorney. We have Gregory Williams, who is an ex-vapor, an ex-smoker, and vaping saved his life. And then we have Heather Hutton, who you all know before, my friend here, from Louisiana Vape Association and Big Chiefs down in St. Bernard. Let's talk to you, Paul, first about why you believe that vapors can change the 2020 election results, and also American tax reform. Now tell me, what does that have to do with you all supporting vaping?
So it's a good question.
Yeah.
So Americans for Tax Reform is a public policy organization that's been around for about 25, 30 years. Mm-hmm. And we were created under the Reagan administration back in the 1980s to fight tax increases. So at the state level, the local level, the federal level. We asked candidates for office to fight tax hikes, to put their opposition.
And it's nonprofit, I think.
So we're a nonprofit public policy organization. Nonpartisan, so Democrats or Republicans, if you oppose tax hikes, you're allies of ours. So about 5 or 6 years ago, when states started to redefine exactly what a tobacco product was, we had a lot of state lawmakers who looked at vaping, who looked at consumers that use these products and said, kind of looks like smoking. The products look like they could be cigarettes, although they're a little more technological. Mm-hmm. And they started changing the definition of what a tobacco product was. And what that meant is that a lot of states were looking to tax them the same way that they tax cigarettes or other tobacco products. And so as an organization that fights tax hikes, there were a lot of new consumers and new products that were being subjected to really, really high taxes, often as high as 100%.
Let me ask you a question as you bring that up. Is that a big problem because so much tax dollars are brought into states and federal and state taxes on cigarettes? Is that correct?
Yep.
Or just so people still want, in a way, to bring those dollars in, so they are supporting some people, not really saying it, but still kind of support smoking, or we need the money to operate these governments?
Yeah, so states make a lot of money taxing smokers.
And I never thought about that. I've never been a smoker, or never thought about the monies that is brought in.
I mean, it's billions of dollars that
A year.
states make every single year, and
States.
the government makes every single year taxing smokers.
How is it divided up between to buy a pack of cigarettes? I could ask my nephew; he would know as many cigarettes as he used to smoke.
Sure. So there's a federal tax on cigarettes, a little over $1 a pack, and then every state has a tax on cigarettes, everywhere from 15 cents, 17 cents a pack, all the way up to $5 a pack. It varies across the country.
And is that the same with the e-cigarette juices? Do they make money off that also?
It's different. 5 years ago, no states had these special excise taxes on e-cigarettes. Now we have about 20 states that do, including here in Louisiana. It's different. Some states tried to tax them kind of successfully the same way as cigarettes, but it's a different product.
Yeah.
If you're not a vapor, it might be kind of confusing.
What about the hookah and the e-pen and I was reading that they call e-juice everything, that hookah thing?
Yeah, there are a lot of products out there, and sometimes they're taxed based on the entire product. Sometimes it's the liquids that's put into the product. Sometimes it's the devices, and so it is a complicated industry and market, which is, I think, why a lot of lawmakers have struggled not only to figure out how to regulate the industry, but also how to tax it, if they should at all. And so our organization began to work with the consumers who didn't want the products that they were using to quit smoking cigarettes to be taxed at the same rate, because that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It should be a healthcare issue if you're trying to stop something that's derogatory to your health.
Absolutely. And especially for consumers across the country, smokers are disproportionately low and moderate income, and they are sensitive to prices in products. And so you don't want them to be more expensive or even as expensive as cigarettes. You want adults who are trying to get less harmful alternatives to cigarettes to have less expensive opportunities to do that.
Right.
So our organization fought these across the country, and it became the top target for lawmakers for tax hikes of any issue, of any industry, of any product between about 2014 and 2018.
They wanted you all out of the way, didn't they?
They saw the growing number of people that were using these products to quit smoking cigarettes. They saw the amount of money.
Let me just ask Heather a moment, since she actually manufactures an e-juice. How much does an average e-juice, how do you buy it? How much do you buy at a time?
You have 10 mils, you have 30 mils, you have 60 mils. So here in Louisiana, we're actually taxed at 5 cents per milliliter. So your tax goes depending on the size of the bottle. You also have the pods.
Now, for people, give an example, like with this cup here. How much is a 30 milliliter?
A 30 milliliter is probably about that big of
4 ounces?
Of
6?
a bottle of juice. 30 mils is an ounce.
Is it just an ounce?
30 mils is an ounce.
I don't know. Okay, I forgot my math here.
So 60 mils, 2 ounces.
Okay. Oh, okay. So that'll give us, okay.
20 mil. Yes, but I'm pretty sure 30 mils is
And so you sell 30 mils for how much would a juice cost?
So my juices are $16.99
for one
30 mil.
30 mil.
For a 30 mil, and then you have a tax that goes on, which is $1.50.
So they're already paying now a 30 milliliter. When I put it in my cigarette compartment.
Normal vapor probably about a week.
Oh, a week. Okay.
About a week.
Okay.
Yeah, depending on how much you vape,
So it's still less for them than cigarettes, because most cigarette smokers smoke how much? 2 packs a day? I don't know.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
average.
Probably at about a pack a day.
Pack a day. It's going down, hasn't it, over time? I think I read. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And vaping is probably helping that too, with it going down. Yeah. Okay. That's.
Yeah, so for us, we kind of naturally fell in as allies for businesses and other organizations. I mean, we didn't really have a vested interest in the existence of the e-cigarette industry.
But you have a vested interest in staying existing yourself, and the politicians, some want you out of the way.
Sure. Yeah. So we fight on behalf of taxpayers and work with them to fight on behalf of themselves. But what really became interesting for this issue as we saw it emerge is that it became very political in that every time there's a tax hike on maybe a gas tax hike or a sales tax hike or even a cigarette tax hike, people don't show up and protest. I mean, there's people that talk about it in the press. There's a lot of debate about this sort of stuff at legislatures, but hundreds of people don't always show up to work with us and protest.
Yeah. This is a very passionate issue to people, yes.
And so we saw a couple of years ago when these taxes first started popping up that hundreds of people were showing up to protest. And in the grand scheme of a budget, it's only a few $1 million that was going to be generated for some of these taxes.
Yeah.
Now, it's significant for the consumers that use them.
Right.
But for the overall budget, it's not a lot of money.
Right.
But when we see 400 people, 500 people show up and protest, there's clearly something going on in terms of how passionately these people feel about their use of and access to affordable alternatives to cigarettes. And so,
because 3 out of every voters we're going to talk a little bit about the 2020 election too, and I'll talk more with you on that, Greg. But believe they're a one issue voter, the vape society of people, the community of vapers, right?
Absolutely. So about 83% of all adults that use e-cigarettes in the country view access to and use of e-cigarettes and policy questions regarding e-cigarettes as the most important issue for them in the election. And again, it might sound weird for someone that doesn't vape. Why could that be such an important issue for you?
Well, if it saved your life, as Gregory and I have talked, but I want to go to Greg a little bit, and we had talked about Michigan. I had talked with Paul about that earlier and read what he had heard, what he said on YouTube. 420,000 people could change the election because Trump only won by 10,000 votes. And tell me what this flavor ban has done to the people and their belief in the president. And I know all of what I read for Democrats are against vaping. I don't know one that's left. And left up into January, December, from what I read, everybody wanted to stop vaping, period. All products, from what I read, pretty much.
Well, first off, Dianne, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, Greg.
And you're right. In terms of the Democrats who are running for president, it's not a very open field when it comes to the willingness to sit down and actually have an adult discussion about vaping products and how to keep these small businesses alive. But what happened over the last 6 months?
And Pete Buttigieg, however you pronounce it, he doesn't even know the difference between marijuana vaping and juice vaping. What he said was just kind of ignorant, what I read.
Yes, it's remarkable. The mark of a politician is the willingness to speak about something confidently that you know nothing about.
Right.
And so the last 6 months has been a roller coaster for vapers. Back in September, as Dianne alluded to in her intro, you had people actually dying, and you had the CDC blaming, quote-unquote, vaping for those illnesses and deaths. But what we now know today is what President Trump has learned, that it wasn't nicotine vaping products hurting people. It was actually illicit THC products sold and filled by drug dealers with bad chemicals inside.
Vitamin E, they found out to be toxic, mixed with THC, which is marijuana.
Yes. Yeah. So back in September, when all this was raging, President Trump went on TV from the Oval Office and said, we're going to ban flavors in all vaping products.
Right.
And that led to an intense debate within the White House. I was able to actually go to the White House.
Oh, wow.
A stakeholder meeting with President Trump. In the end, President Trump saw that opening up a new black market in response to deaths caused by black market products wasn't the way to go. He ended up doing tailored policy where he looked at what are the products with the highest usage rates among youth. They're the closed system pod products like Juul.
Okay.
So
and Juul is owned by Marlboro?
Juul is about 1/3 owned by Altria, which owns Marlboro.
Yeah.
And they make a good product that can help smokers quit, but you had a ton of youth who were abusing the product to get a nicotine buzz.
Okay.
And so what the Trump administration's policy ended up doing is that the flavors and closed system products like Juul, they won't be back on the market for 6 months, a year, but the e-liquids sold by Heather, sold by vape shops across
that was a big win for you all, I think. With him getting knowledge of what's going on really in the market.
In September, we had little or no hope of changing.
And they raised the age, right? Greg, it's 21 now. It was only 22 states or some low 20s that it had to be 21 years of age to smoke or vape, because vaping is in that category, I think, also. And so now the entire country is 21 years old, is what I read, as of December.
President Trump saw that.
Yeah, he
President
solved
Trump
that
saw
problem, yeah.
If we raise the age to 21, you could actually have an opportunity to keep these products away, but continue to allow adults to access them,
Right.
which is what is critically important, especially here in Louisiana. Something like 730,000 adult smokers left, 20% plus of the state. So we can't forget in this debate that
Yes.
there are still people smoking cigarettes here, and they need help.
And dying every day from lung cancer.
And that, like Greg was saying, so a real problem that we have here in Louisiana still is that the Louisiana Department of Health still refuses to recognize that it's the vitamin E acetate that has caused the deaths.
That's been published by the CDC.
So, well, they have even gone even further than the CDC, because the CDC actually has came out and made clarifications to where the Louisiana Department of Health has refused to make any kind of clarifications and have nothing about THC or vitamin E acetate on their warning throughout the state. And this is something that LAVA has been going back and forth with the Department of Health, and they said that they still, to this today, I just spoke with them last week, don't feel comfortable with ruling out our products. And it's a blatant lie. Like, it's
Why do you think that is? Because if CDC, the Center for Disease Control, can say that it is not caused by anything but THC marijuana juice cut with vitamin E, which becomes toxic.
right.
Why then are they saying this?
Because they said that there are small amounts of people that have not admitted to using the THC and that they don't feel comfortable with not ruling it out. And
Okay.
It's a moral crusade.
Oh, okay.
And I think that these are people who look at smokers or people who use nicotine as less than other people in society. They treat them like deplorables. They look down on them, and they refuse to acknowledge that there are products within nicotine use that are less harmful or more harmful than others. Mm-hmm. But there's a bigger issue to this as well, which is the amount of money that is being spent by people like Mike Bloomberg, who has spent $160 million giving money to organizations to push a ban on these products across the country that don't believe in consumer freedom, that don't believe in empowering individuals to make choices about themselves. And so when that sort of money is being spent to lie to people,
he spent $500 million on this campaign buying people all over the country already, right?
Yeah,
and says he'll spend $2 billion. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not only that there's a moral crusade against the existence of this product without regard for the public health consequences. It's that there's a lot of money being given to organizations that push this agenda that has no regard.
Are we still going back to at the end of the day, going back to the amount of money they get from cigarettes? They prefer to see people on cigarettes from the local and federal government. Does it still tie back some of that to that?
That's what's ironic about the whole thing, which is that many of the organizations that are now crusading against vaping for years have said that their top objective is reducing cigarette use in the country. And e-cigarettes are achieving that which they never could through tax hikes or regulations, and that's getting adults to quit smoking. So that's what's ironic.
Didn't I read that teenagers in the last 5 to 6 years, usage of cigarettes is down by 50%?
Yes.
Or some high percentage?
Yes, we've seen not just smoking continue to decline among teens, because it's been on the decline for years, but we've seen the largest record-setting declines in the 40-plus year history of tracking teen smoking. So you have a lot of activists out there that use real shoddy science to say that vaping products are somehow a gateway to smoking for teenagers. Meanwhile, here in 2020, smoking among teens is virtually extinguished.
Now, is it because they're going to vaping, which now they can't because now the age has been up to 21, or is it because of education, like with Tobacco-Free Living, who targets, that we did a show with last year in the fall, targets teenagers and youth? So is that, it's all things combined, probably,
Certainly good education for teenagers has helped.
Yeah.
But you don't see the kind of marked big decrease that we've seen over just the last 5 years just by education suddenly catching up to reality with teens. What you have is risk-seeking teens, the same kind of teens that experiment with marijuana, with alcohol. Instead of experimenting with cigarettes, they're experimenting with vaping products. Of course, in a perfect world, we prefer that teenagers be perfect and they not use any of those substances. But if they're going to experiment with something and potentially become long-term users of something, it is much better to be using a non-combustible product than it is to inhale burning smoke into your lungs.
And are most of them getting them on the black market? And that's why, we know the deaths were caused by black market and other things are caused. I was reading, I'm sorry, Greg.
So what the CDC's survey results show is that most teens are acquiring products through friends, through family members, not by going to a store and buying them. The black market problems are specific only to the THC vaping. THC vaping has been increasing. If you're in a legal state like Colorado or Washington or California, probably it's not going to send you to a hospital. But if you're just buying it off the street, that's unfortunately where you have people that are adding substances in order to cut the amount of THC and increase their profits.
Let's go to you, Gregory. Tell us now, you were a 57-year-old man. You were smoking since you were 12 years old.
Well, at 12 years old,
Yeah.
I was one of them, I'm going to be a cool kid.
Yeah.
At 12 years old, you're going to be cool if you smoke, but I become a real long-time smoker when I was 18.
You became addicted to cigarettes now. Didn't your son have to tell you, Daddy, you need to do something about this and stop this coughing and shortness of breath?
Yeah.
And how old is he, 12? How old is
He's 21 now.
When he told you, it was
He was 17.
17 then?
Yeah.
He never smoked.
No.
Does he vape?
He vaped.
Tell me how vaping, tell us in the audience how vaping saved your life.
Well, after 30 years of smoking, I started getting where I couldn't breathe. It was hard to breathe. I was always coughing. And that's when my son Zachary's like, Dad, I hear you in the bathroom coughing. You need to quit smoking. Why don't you try vaping? So I kind of hemmed hard around, but it helped.
And you told me you tried the patch you mentioned a minute ago, and what else?
I tried the patch. Didn't really work. I tried the Shantix, which is true. It'll make you have bad dreams, just weird dreams.
Hallucinations, huh?
And the first time I took Shantix, the doctor told me, well, if you feel suicidal, call me and I'll give you something.
I may be dead by then if I feel suicide. I may kill myself.
I take another drug to ward off this drug. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I quit it. So I tried it again and, just had these weird dreams, wake up in cold sweats. I just killed it right there.
Now, you were on albuterol also. You were on inhaler, right?
I have a rescue inhaler, but I do every morning I have to use Brio because doctor sent me to a respiratory doctor and found out that I have a slight case of emphysema and
COPD, both. You still have that, but it's gotten better over time since you've been vaping. Yeah. How many years have you been vaping, Gregory?
3 years.
3 years. And you see a difference? You feel better?
Feel better. I mean, I'm always going to be short-winded because of the
destruction to the lungs. Mm-hmm.
And if parents are really watching this, show this to your kids. I can't do anything like I used to do because of smoking. Mm-hmm. Thank God I started vaping.
Next week, we're going to talk to a few more other ex-cigarette smokers who vape also. One other thing I did want to ask you, which is, cigarettes have a lot of, they have 600 chemicals in them, and 7,000, I think I saw, after when it's burned. But also a lot of juices have chemicals in it too, but they don't have the formaldehyde, but a lot do have nicotine, I guess, and they don't have formaldehyde that you embalm people with, and they don't have benzene, and they don't have acetane that I take my nail polish off with, right? That's not in any of the juices, right? So the chemicals, you probably would be the best expert.
Yeah, in a e-liquid, you have 4 main components, and you really only need 3 of them. You have your vegetable glycerin, your propylene glycol, your nicotine, and flavoring. So you don't really need the nicotine or the flavoring if you don't need to. And that's your main components.
But you still have nicotine in every e-juice, which is also in a cigarette, but not every e-juice has nicotine, right? Just some. Shouldn't that be labeled? Is the FDA doing anything to label juices?
Well, the FDA is treating the zero nicotine right now just the same. They have the same warnings that the ones with nicotine have in them. So we have to have the same warnings that whether it's zero nicotine or 3 nicotine, they still have to have the nicotine warnings from the FDA.
But all the products do come with labeling that says what nicotine level. Yes. If it's 0, it says no nicotine. And what's important when it comes to chemicals for people to understand is that the principal tenet of toxicology, going back hundreds of years, the dose makes the poison. And so when you're talking about the thousands of chemicals in cigarettes, when you move over to vaping, you're reducing not only that number, but the amount of the chemicals. And so when you look at the blood, the urine of vapors and compare them to smokers, the levels of carcinogens are 98, 99% less in the vapors than the smokers. That's the ultimate sign as to what could happen 10, 20, 30 years down the road, how much carcinogens are in your blood. And for vapors, it's tiny compared to cigarette smoke.
We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back to Dianne Andrews in Black and White.
Hi, I'm Greg Williams. I smoked for nearly 30 years. Stopped smoking because of vaping technology. Grape drink on ice is my favorite one.
The Louisiana vaping industry employs nearly 2,500 Louisiana residents, generating nearly $500 million for the state economy. It's important that state lawmakers protect this industry that's helping countless adult smokers quit with less harmful alternatives.
Vapors, your ability to access flavors is under attack. Join CASA today and fight back.
March 9th begins Louisiana's legislative session. The Louisiana Vape Association is asking for your help. Please contact your representatives today.
Thanks for coming back. We just wanted to prepare and show you how people actually vape. From Gregory is going to take the juice and actually put it into a e-cigarette.
Yeah, so this is a real simple product. This is one that's pre-filled. These are the ones that are only available today in menthol and tobacco, but thankfully I had some extra flavor ones left before the temporary ban went into effect. And it's just as simple as screwing it in. And you press the button, and there you go. And so if you're a smoker out there, don't be scared off by bad, negative, intentionally misleading information. Try these products to give yourself an alternative.
Because this never goes into your lungs. This is aerosol. It's not smoke. Is that
aerosol, and you breathe it into your lungs.
You do?
But the toxicological effects, what you actually see in the lab when you when you have lung cells, you spray cigarette smoke on them versus when you put the aerosol on them, it's completely different.
Let me tell you, I've been to Bodies, the exhibit in Las Vegas, and they have, every organ, and they have a lung in there, and they show the actual black lung from a smoker, and it's actually black. I don't know how people live. We'll show that on the screen up here. I think we showed it on the last show too. And then a normal lung. Now, I would like to see the vaping product lung versus the black versus the normal lung. Have you ever seen that? Have they ever done that?
Well, the problem is that vapors keep living long lives. Give it a little time and people will be able to have on exhibit.
People have been vaping about 10 years, right? Okay.
Well, what the UK Public Health actually has done, you don't need an actual lung to do this, is you do the old test. You take a big soda bottle and you fill it up with cotton. You have two of them, and you have one bottle of the cotton that is subjected to a pack of cigarette smoke. And then you have one that goes through 10 milliliters of e-liquid.
Yeah.
After just going through that pack of cigarettes, those cotton balls are filthy and dirty and brown. Meanwhile, the ones that have been exposed to e-cigarette vapor for a couple hours, there's virtually nothing on them.
And that's out there on YouTube. I think I've seen that out there on YouTube. We're going to close it off for right now, but for next week, we're going to come back with 3 or 4 other vapors and talk a little bit about their journeys and how they believe vaping has saved their lives. So come on back to us next week. Have a great week. Remember, between black and white, there are always shades of gray. So be patient and be tolerant. Thank you very much, Dianne Andrews.